Is Conor Daly a good IndyCar driver? As a longtime IndyCar fan, I find there's one question that everyone seems to have an opinion on, but no one really seems to dig deep into the facts to see if their opinion's correct. So, I personally don't have a strong opinion on Conor Daly, but I do wonder if all his fans and detractors know what's going on. So I decided to do a deep dive into a complete history of Conor Daly, his racing career, and his history in IndyCar. If you're not familiar with me, my name's IndyCar Dad. Generally, I do podcasts about how to have fun in IndyCar, and I like to explain things, usually doing a deep technical dive and then coming back with sort of a more understandable way to digest that. So I love IndyCar. I spend hours and hours reading about it, but I know you only have a few minutes, so I try to turn those hours of research into just a few-minute podcast. So today we're doing Conor Daly. So to find out what people's opinions are on Conor Daly, I reached out to my followers, not that I have gazillions of them, but I have some hardcore followers, and asked what they thought of Conor. And here are some quotes. One person says, he is a good driver. One says, he has a great work ethic. One says, he's a better driver than others who have bought their opportunities. Another said, he isn't bankrolled by his dad in private equity. So someone said, he's right at the line of being good enough to be a professional race car driver, but just under the line of not being consistent enough to be in the top seats. Another person says he's consistently fast. Another says he does a good job of bringing the cars home in one piece. And someone else says he's one of the best oval drivers, but he is not competitive on street and road courses. So let's try to analyze each of those things individually and see if they are true, and let's go with that. So the first thing said is he's a good driver. The research seems to agree with this. His finishes are those of a good driver. His average race finish is 16.6. And the years he did a full season, he finished most of those years in 18th place in the championship, with a best of 17th place in the championship. Those results are just below average. So the term good seems fitting. He's a good driver. So, 2, he has a great work ethic, is a quote someone said. Now, as a longtime IndyCar watcher and fan, I seem to remember some incidents that involved Conor that did not demonstrate a great work ethic. One, when he was fired from ECR, there was talk about him not taking things seriously enough. He's also been known as sort of a prankster and a drinker in the pits. And I know that team owners that have millions of dollars backing their driver and many employees supporting that driver don't take that type of stuff lightly. Also, I remember seeing him just after he had been let go from ECR. I was in Toronto in the paddock area, and Conor was there with his helmet, and he was driving the 2-seater. No big deal. I mean, it's just something. 2-seaters are good, and if you're a licensed IndyCar driver, you can drive them. But I was walking by, and I saw Conor Daly changing into his driver's suit, and he took off his shirt, and I was really surprised at his lack of fitness at the time. You know, if you compare like a Scott Dixon, Joseph Newgarden, or other drivers, these people are professional athletes, and at the time, Conor looked kind of lumpy. So I could see how ECR probably wasn't thinking this was someone very committed to the team. So there you go. So a lot of the research and my personal anecdote, not that this is valid, don't really contribute to the opinion that he has a great work ethic. But to his credit, Conor does bust his butt putting out content. And do a podcast. It's not easy. And he makes a bunch of appearances. He's attracted a number of sponsors into the sport. He hasn't usually had enough to pay for an entire season, but compared to many drivers, he's been successful at bringing in new money into the sport. So, is that a great work ethic? Maybe that's an example of it, and maybe the situation at ECR kicked him into high gear because he does seem to be a lot more fit these days too. So, here we go. The third quote, which I really wanted to deep dive in, he is a better driver than those who have bought their opportunity. So I wanted to do a deep dive to see how Conor did against his teammates. If you're not a huge racing fan, usually racing analysis of drivers has to do with how did they do against their teammates. Because you can be in a better car, you can have a better engine, but your teammate has the same equipment you do. So let's see how Conor did against his teammates. Last year, his teammate was Stingray Robb at Juncos, and Conor definitely beat Stingray. Conor finished 18th in the championship, and Stingray finished 25th. So score one for Conor Daly. In 2024, Conor was invited by Juncos at the end of the season to race 7 races. He ended up finishing 26th in the points, but he didn't do the full season. He did have a podium, really good, and his teammate was Romain Grosjean, and Conor beat Grosjean in 4 of the 6 races that they both raced. So another point for Conor. In 2023, that was the year he was fired for work ethic. He ran 11 races and finished 25th in the championship. His teammate Rinus VeeKay finished 14th, and Rinus was beating him at the time Conor was let go. So, in 2022, Conor also raced for ECR. He finished 17th in the series, which was his best ever finish. But Rinus, his teammate, finished 12th, and Rinus got a race win. So, definitely 2 seasons with thumbs down for Conor. In 2021, he ran 16 races. He finished 18th in the points. He ran for both 2 teams, Carlin and ECR, to sort of make up a full season. And in 2020, he finished 17th in the points, again, running for Carlin and ECR. In 2019, in 2021 and 2020, there's no great comparison because he doesn't have direct teammates because he's running for 2 teams. In 2019, he ran 7 races for 3 different teams, including 2 races in top equipment. He ran for Andretti at the Indy 500 and at Laguna Seca. In the Indy 500, he finished 10th, good. At Laguna Seca, he finished 22nd, not so good. And maybe that's an example where people say he's good on ovals but not good on road courses, but we'll talk more about that later. In 2018, he only ran 4 races, but in 2017, he ran full-time for AJ Foyt Racing. And AJ Foyt Racing was a decent team at the time. Conor finished 18th in the championship, but he was beat by his teammate Carlos Munoz, who finished 16th. So during that time frame, AJ Foyt Racing typically was finishing between 14th and 18th in the standings. So Conor's 18th place finish was really one of their worst finishes of the time period. So not real great. In 2016, Conor ran the whole season for Dale Coyne Racing in one of their cars. And the other car, they had 4 different drivers rotate through. You may remember some of these names: Luca Filippi, Gabby Chavez, R.C. Anderson, and Pippa Mann, all bought time in the other car. And when all the points were added up at the end of the season, those 4 sort of ham and egger fly-by-night drivers scored almost as many points as Conor did in a full-time ride. So I don't really think Conor demonstrated sort of any superiority to 4 different ride buyers in this situation. In 2015, he ran 1 race on the oval, and he finished 17th, so nothing to speak of. In 2014, he did no IndyCar at all. This is going back a ways, this is 12 years ago. He did race in GP2, which is like Formula 2, F2 right now. He ran 18 races, finished 26th in the points. He had 0 wins, and his best finish was 7th. So that's not good. This is a championship that Romain Grosjean won, that the championship it turned into was won by like Robert Schwartzman and people like that. So in 2013, Conor ran 1 race for AJ Foyt Racing. That was the Indy 500, and he finished 22nd. So in summary, Conor Daly has raced a lot of cars, and he's been beaten by his teammate as often as he's beat his teammate. So again, I think we're kind of falling into this good driver situation. Conor's rarely faced up against ride buyers. Stingray, Robb, and those part-timers at Dale Coyne are sort of the exceptions. But most of his other teammates have been professionals. Carlos Munoz beat him when they ran for Foyt. Rinus I hate to say it, Arena spanked him when they drove for ECR. And Connor was teammates with Romain Grosjean for a short period of time, and he did well against him. So, all right. So that's my take on that. This is turning into a bit of a bummer of a podcast, so I apologize. Usually at IndyCar Dad, I'm sort of upbeat and talk about funny stuff. So another quote is, he's a great driver. He is a winner. This someone said. He's a great driver. He's a winner. Let's look at that. So, I'm sorry, he's not really a winner. I generally rank drivers, like me personally, when a new driver comes into the series, I look at the last thing they've won and did they win at every series. So I can generally sniff out a sort of a Nepo baby type person by, did they go from GP3 to GP2 without winning races? If they did it with the money. If they won 9 races in GP3, then of course they're going to go to GP2. So who's talented and who's not? And in the past, we've had drivers come all the way up through to IndyCar without winning races. You know, like Dalton Kellett hadn't won a race in a decade, and he did. It was some, club sport race. And Devlin DeFrancesco was not really a race winner. So is Conor Daly a race winner? Well, he didn't win any races in GP2. His best finish was 7th in any race, 7th. And he had 2 race wins back in 2013 in GP3. So in Indy Lights, he won 1 race in 2011, which is the same number of Indy Lights wins as Stingray Robb. And Conor Daly has no wins in IndyCar. So this does not back up the statement, he is a winner. He is a great driver, he's a winner. I can't go with that. So. Another person says, he isn't being bankrolled by his dad in private equity. And I think this is a Nolan Siegel dig, Listen, Nolan Siegel was winning races in Indy Lights, enough races, and, he was fast, that he got pulled up by McLaren. So sure, there's some money involved there too, but McLaren was interested in him, and Nolan was being pulled up by Juncos first, and that wasn't a money deal so much. So, but let's talk about Conor Daly here too, because Conor Daly calling out other people, or Conor Daly fans, I should say. So I don't know if Conor calls people out, but Conor Daly fans calling out other people because they have some advantage. I mean, Conor Daly's dad was a Formula One driver, right? His mom was a jet ski racer. And after his mom and dad divorced, his mom married Doug Bowles, the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I mean, his parents might not be writing big checks, but he's using these connections and names to secure sponsors that other drivers wouldn't have access to. And he gets media attention that other drivers don't get because of this connection, Derek Daly's son, Doug Bowles' stepson, that contributes to airtime, which contributes to keeping your sponsors happy, regardless of your results on the track. So, I mean, he might be working hard, but he might be working hard to get to home plate from second base. So, all right, another person says he's right at the line of being good enough to be a professional race driver, but just under the line of not being consistent enough to be in the top seats. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the results we talked about sort of show that, and I would say he's not consistent enough to be in a seat every year. And that shows too. He's had full-time seasons, gone to part-time, gone back up to full-time, did full-time seasons by using 2 teams to get all the races in. So, I think that's a fair assessment. Someone else said he's consistently fast. Well, his actual numbers are, his average IndyCar finish is 16.6. And the standard deviation on his finish is 8. So if you look at the last few years, almost every single driver that finished 16th in the season points returned the next year. So in a way, that does seem deserving of a ride. But the standard deviation does not say consistently. And 16th isn't really fast either. So I think Conor Daly fans, I'm finding, like to exaggerate. Or maybe they're just big fans. He is from the Speedway, Indiana area. So Indianapolis has tons of IndyCar fans. So, of course, they're going to root for their home team guy. But, I don't know if the numbers warrant outsiders. Like, I'm from Detroit, so I don't really feel that way. Anyway, someone said he does a good job of bringing the cars home in one piece. And I personally had no data on that. It never occurred to me whether or not Conor Daly crashes a lot or doesn't. But I looked into it, and it is very true that Conor's only crashed twice in the last 5 seasons. One was last season when Christian Rasmussen, honestly, they got into it in a weird way, in an ugly way. And then in 2021, he was involved in this giant multi-car wreck at the start of one of the Texas races. And it was just like one of those deals where Conor was starting in the back and the cars were everywhere. You know, I don't think he made a mistake. And in fact, I think Conor Daly should be credited as a driver that does not make a lot of mistakes. And he takes good care of the car. So I think that is true. The next statement is he's one of the best oval drivers. Now, I don't see a lot of proof of that here. His average finish on ovals is 15th. On all tracks, it's 16.6. So he's only 1.6 positions better on average on ovals than other tracks. So let's compare his 15th place average finish on ovals to other drivers. So Joseph Newgarden is the first guy you got to compare it to. His average oval finish is a 7th. Dixon's 8 to 9, Pato's 10, Palou is 9 to 10, Rasmussen is 11.4, Rosenqvist is 12. So those guys are all in good equipment. Well, Rasmussen's not in great equipment. Santino Ferrucci is in, I'd say, equivalent level of equipment to Conor, and Santino's average is 12. Rinus VeeKay was his teammate. His average is 13.6. Conor's 15th. So let's compare some other people. Kiffin Simpson's average is 17.6. Nolan Siegel's average last year was like 16, and Stingray's average is 19. Conor Daly's average finish at the 500. If you think he's a 500 ringer, his average finish is 17.4. So he's not really a ringer. He does, when he leads laps, the place goes crazy. But I wouldn't say he's particularly awesome at the race. So another quote. He's never had a chance in a top car. I disagree. Conor Daly's run with Andretti, where he had a 10th and a 22nd position, 10th at Indy and 22nd at Laguna Seca. He ran a full season with Foyt. Foyt's team typically is finishing in the mid-teens, and Conor finished 18th. So he got beat by his teammate. He was one of the worst finishers for Foyt in those few years. So that's not going to get you a chance at the next level. And then when Rinus and Conor were teammates, Rinus won a race at the Indy GP on pure pace. A lot of people, like when you talk about, you know, one race win drivers, sometimes it's on a lucky strategy or something like that. But Rinus VeeKay, if you watch back that race, he won that race by being the fastest guy on the track, period. So, and Conor, you know, was there in the same equipment. So, in fact, I'm surprised that those season and a half with ECR didn't absolutely destroy Conor Daly's career. Rinus was young and fast, but I also surprised it didn't take Rinus to a better drive because, you know, one of those two things seemed to have to happen. Rinus finished 12th in the championship. Conor finished 17th. Conor was experienced. Rinus was new. I don't know. In general, never had a chance in top car. The guy's finished 18th in points in 4 seasons. His best ever finish in the season is 17th. That's not going to get you a drive in the top car. Nobody from Penske and Chip Ganassi is hiring the guy who finished 17th last year or was beaten by his teammate. So, not to say bad things, but that's kind of what this has kind of turned into. So I'm just going to sum it up. I'm not enjoying this podcast. I don't think you'll see a lot like this from me. So in summary, Conor Daly is a good driver. He works hard and he uses connections to get rides in IndyCar. Statistically, drivers that do what he does do stay in the series, but they are at risk of not getting a ride. Conor has driven for good teams, and the fact that he's never driven for Ganassi and Penske is not due to bad luck, it's due to bad results. Most drivers on the grid have a much better resume than Conor, not just in IndyCar, but in prior series as well. All right. I'm going to stop here. I apologize. That's all I'm going to say. I started the IndyCar Dad podcast to help people have fun watching IndyCar because I have fun watching IndyCar. I have fun analyzing things about IndyCar, but I'm learning that analyzing drivers and people, this is someone's favorite driver, isn't going to be fun for anyone, right? It's not fun for anyone. It wasn't fun for me to do this. If Conor Daly was your favorite driver before you watched this wasn't fun to listen to, and you probably dislike me now, and that's not fun. If you hated Conor Daly beforehand, watching this video, you probably knew some of this stuff, and you probably still dislike him. So that's not fun either. I don't want to increase the hate. So I hope you'll forgive me. I'm new to podcasting. I thought people might like it if I did some research on a particular driver. Conor seemed to be the one to do because there's so much around him. But this is just not that fun. It's not endearing. So I think unless people say they really like this podcast, I think I'm just going to stop doing this. If you do have an opinion you want to share with me, you want to call me a jerk or say, I missed something, leave a comment on the YouTube version of this video. That's the long form, and I will read it. And I'll very seriously consider your opinions. I do like to hear from you. I don't want to make anyone angry. Anyway, I'm IndyCar Dad. Follow me for unique looks into the world of IndyCar, hopefully ones that are usually fun to see. I'm on all the podcast networks, Instagram, TikTok, and that sort of thing as IndyCar Dad. There's a video podcast on YouTube as well. And I go to a bunch of the races. And I always encourage people, if you see me at the races, say hi. Because I'm actually really friendly and I want to meet you. We have a lot in common. We like this sport. And we'll probably have a good conversation about it. So, sorry to dig on Conor. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, thanks everybody.